The audience of my media product can be defined in several ways. I think that the target audience mainly would be based around the male demographic. This is because the documentary is about sport. It's about sort of things that has happened in the male side of sport. Whilst doping has related quite a lot in the past to the female side of sport as well, I think that really with a lot of authoritative figures sort of in the doping industry, in bodies such as the World Anti-Doping Organization being male, I think that it seems to be more of a topic which more a male audience would be more interested in. And I feel this has been sort of reinforced in my documentary through the usage of a male voiceover, interviewing male individuals, and a lot of focus on sort of male sporting activities. Also, more subtle influences have been used, such as the usage of different songs, such as Kings of Leon and The Killers. The sort of target demographic for these bands tends to be a male demographic. Furthermore, I'd say the documentary would probably have more of an influence on a sort of white demographic or ethnicity. This is because I feel that in the documentary there's a lot of references to sort of a westernized culture, and this is because westernized culture mainly revolves around, in terms of sport, it revolves around things like the Olympics and different sporting events. So yeah, it's important to remember I think sport, really all the funding and everything comes from a more Western sort of demographic. I think doping is more of a problem for Western athletes as well, in countries like in developed European countries and the US. It's been more of a problem. I think it would relate more to a middle class audience as well. Middle class or working class, really. Mainly, in fact, I think working class would relate to it more, because I think sport is mainly a sort of thing for aspirers. This sport, when you look at documentaries like this, it's for aspirers because it's supposed to be quite sort of something to look up to, and the working class would look up to sport stars, because they feel it's definitely something to aspire to, and the idea that their sort of heroes of doping could be could be quite detrimental. So that's why the topic could be more. I mean, in that respect, the topic could be more focused on a middle class background. But I feel that sport in general is mainly a working class movement, especially in the early stages. But I feel like this scientific side of sport, in terms of doping, etc., would mainly probably fit in with a more working class sort of backgrounds. In terms of age, I feel maybe an older age compared to what you might see for some sporting documentaries. Possibly like young adult, like 24 to 30 maybe. This is because whilst it maintains like a lot of it tries to maintain a lot of informative aspects to the documentary, which would probably fit in with a more adult audience. There's also aspects where I try to relate the topic to a younger audience. This is seen in the later stages of the documentary, where I look to interview young athletes on their views on the practice of doping. This is done in order to sort of show what sort of impact doping is having on the young athletes of the UK, in order to give like sort of background context into the whole issue of doping, in order to give it more of an impact on the audiences watching. But I feel this is also effective because it sort of broadens the sort of spectrum in terms of how the target audience is being aimed at. In terms of theory, I think uses and gratifications is a very important theory to look at. So there are four main aspects to the Blumler and Katz theory, which Blumler and Katz have sort of made. Firstly, there's personal identity, and this goes back to the point I was just saying then. Like with the usage of young athletes. I think because they're sort of working class individuals who they aren't sort of integrated into the whole system of sport doping. People feel they can sort of relate to them and possibly the issues that they're having. This can be the usage of uses and gratification theory can also be seen through the information aspect. Because the documentary is based on a topic that people don't really know about, doping, I feel that this is kind of a way to gain knowledge on it, watching this documentary, and therefore that's the way information is sort of gauged that from this uses and gratifications theory. In terms of entertainment, there's a lot of cinematic effects, such as like the heavy usage of sport. It's meant because it's based like the whole entertainment aspects of the uses and gratifications theory isn't really based around all of these. I mean, it's kind of it's got some stuff to do with like the cinematic effects, but it's mainly being defined in a way that it's sort of a way of escapism. So because doping isn't really a topic that would associate every person with their everyday lives, it's more of a thing that people sort of hear about on the news, etc. And that's why it's kind of a form of escapism. And furthermore, uses and gratifications also points out the idea of social integration, which is basically gaining insight into the circumstances of others and identifying with others, and finding a basis for conversation. And this kind of incorporates in with the points made about information. This is because there's a lot of talk about sort of the insight into young athletes and their struggles as to what they are seeing happening in the sporting industry, and people can sort of sympathise with the ideas that are being delivered throughout the documentary.